back to the slide before. Okay, so how can Rotary help? First and foremost, interact and Rotaract. I have found in most districts that I've spoken to that if there are 60 clubs in a district, they may only have 30 interact clubs. There's lots of reasons for that. We're trying to find a teacher liaison. Students have lots of choices. As Rotary aligns with climate solutions and align interact and Rotaract with school and municipal green teams, the students will come. Churchill for Climate is a group at Churchill High School. They have 140 kids in the Churchill for Climate Club. They have 14 kids in Interact. As we align Interact with Churchill for Climate, the groups will explode exponentially. Funding for the local projects, whether it comes from Rotary, whether it's funded by the PTA, there are grant opportunities that are coming. There's federal legislation that's looking at some grant monies. But what happens is actions precede legislation. If you have data, if you have an action, the legislation will follow. It's not usually the reverse where legislation precedes actions. The other thing is engaging volunteers for the projects. It could be church groups, it could be Rotary clubs, it can be PTA members, but it's an entire community effort. And then what's really most exciting and what's beginning to emerge now is that we link students to other schools. So we have interactors interacting with other Interact clubs in the same way that SRAG does that. And we talk to other clubs, we need to have interactors doing the same thing. So what I want to do now is I'm going to show this one brief video, and I hope you get the audio for it. But some of the people who are in this video are going to be talking to us now. So I wanted to kind of share, I could.
Living, consuming, disposing, and impacting our planet is no longer sustainable.
It is time to look at the problem, understand the impact we're having, and change our behaviors.
It's no longer okay not to know.
Lunch out of landfills is a way to start. Rotarians can educate,
Inspire, assist teachers and student-led green team.
Empower, engage,
Provide the tools needed. Weigh and monitor every day. Our trash and recycling looks like this, and convert it to become this. In every school,
too much food is too good to waste.
too many go hungry. The data tells us why.
We will teach you how. We teach our communities.
We'll teach our government.
we can do this.
We should do this. We must do this.
So what I'd like to do now is introduce some of our participants. Ember Carrera has been involved with Lunch Out of Landfills at Urbana High School since its inception. She is now, she's graduated and has moved on to college, but she was instrumental. She had the opportunity not only to help initiate this program, but to, she spoke to the mayor and alderman of Frederick City. She spoke at a Mayo conference, the Maryland Association of Environmental Outdoor Educators, and even testified on behalf of the compost bill in Annapolis. So this is the type of empowerment you see. Angelina and Vika are a couple of amazing kids who initiated the program on their own at a school, and they're working on. So I'm gonna let them share their stories a little bit. Why don't we go ahead, and Ember, if you're there, if you can unmute yourself and give us maybe a 2-minute or 3-minute description of what you've been up to and where you are now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. Awesome. So I'm Ember Carrera, and when I was a freshman at Urbana High School, I was deeply disturbed by what I was seeing in the cafeteria. We had 10 huge trash bins and maybe 2 or 3 small recycling bins. In the classroom, one of my teachers told me that we don't recycle. But when we came back after winter break, I came back to a whole different system. Next to each big trash bin was another big recycling bin, a compost bin, and a liquids bucket. People from our community, Rotarians, local politicians, teachers, parents were all coming in and teaching students and encouraging them to compost and divert their waste properly. Students from the environmental science program and Learning for Life students were helping to bring the buckets and weigh the waste, as well as cleaning the buckets each day, which lightened the load for our custodial staff. It was amazing to see how we could come together and create something so beautiful out of such an impossible looking situation. And it really inspired me to be able to have the persistence to keep going throughout this program. And when we started to see some of the diversion rates decline, we organized a 2-year celebration of our composting system that saw our numbers that were reaching single digits shoot all the way back up to 50% diversion rates, where they stayed until we were sent home because of COVID-19. So it's been a very enlightening process, be able to work with everyone and show that one small thing we do during the day really can have impacts throughout the rest of our day and lives by focusing on how we can become a more sustainable community. So thank you guys. And I really hope that you take some of this information and start your own composting programs.
So Advika, why don't you go ahead and share you and Angelina, I don't know, maybe one at a time, however that works best.
Yeah, we actually have a really short presentation. Is it okay if we share that, or would you rather just have us speak?
Feel free to share it. You should be able to.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So my name is Advika. My partner Angelina and I are both sophomores at Richard Montgomery High School in Montgomery County. And this is just a little bit about us and our contact information. So in 2018, we initiated a program just like the one Ember just spoke about in Clarksburg Elementary School. So we coordinated the hauler who came to pick up bi-weekly to weekly, changed throughout the months, and we created different educational materials that the students saw daily, and we saw some really good results, and we also saw a new learning opportunity for the elementary schoolers that we'll go over in this presentation. Angelina, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so this is some testimonials. We'll just go through it quickly since most of it's highlighted, but we saw that even though a lot of people expected it would be really hard for principals and staff to get on, I think a major point that's been reiterated is that this fits into their current schedules. So it's honestly, if you're working together, there aren't any issues that you can't resolve. And it has a great impact on the students since they get to learn about composting. And we did a survey, which we'll mention later, but it also helps the school staff themselves since they can, get recertified as a green school in this case. And also help the environment while they're at it.
So a month after the program started, we went around and we talked to all the different grades at the school to see how the students feel about it. And almost everyone reacted positively. Everyone did, except for a few students who were too young to understand, which tells us that, you need tailored materials for each grade. But yeah, mostly the students really appreciated and understood how this program helps the environment, and that they should not only compost their food waste, but try to reduce it at the source when their parents are packing it, like what Mr. Richardson mentioned earlier.
Yeah, so this is a slide where we get to quantify our impacts in terms of environmental benefit. So in terms of pounds, we have data from our hauler week by week. And you can see we're regularly over the 250 mark each time. So it shows we're composting a lot and we're diverting a lot.
So a few weeks ago, we found out that we received $48,000 from the World Wildlife Fund to implement 8 more programs, 4 of which are supervised by me and Angelina. And so because of this grant and the requirements for that grant, it really inspired us to focus more on the educational aspect, so that this is not just a waste diversion initiative, but also a way to stop waste from its source and change the way students feel about their waste. So we're going to have resources that are more flexible this time, and we're going to involve the elementary schoolers themselves in conducting the audits, understanding different aspects of food waste and waste in general, and use their creativity to influence how the program functions in their day-to-day school days. So yeah, go ahead.
So another major thing we're doing this year is working closely with younger students. So getting elementary schoolers involved in leading other elementary school students as well, and to make sure that everyone understands the program, as well as getting high schoolers from all across our county and from all different backgrounds involved in helping out students.
Yeah, so with that, we have a new structure for an organization that we're in the process of getting certified as a nonprofit. So the high schoolers Angelina just mentioned, they're going to be near each of the elementary school and middle school programs, and they're going to be specially selected for their skills and how they interact with younger students and what new ideas they bring to the table for compostology. And they're going to initiate a new club of what we're calling compost supervisors. And they're really going to work very closely with the elementary schoolers to kind of build a more close bond that can be really long lasting, especially in a lot of the Title I schools that the grant will cover. You know, a lot of the kids in those communities don't have as strong of a support system as the schools we've previously seen and we've been in all our lives. So we really hope to bring another aspect to the program. And another note, when we were applying to the grant, we formed a coalition of individuals from around the county who will really guide us as we work to expand to different schools.
Okay, just lastly, our next school year goals is to expand the program to interested schools that were that aren't going to be engaged this fall, since it's really approaching pretty quickly. In addition, we're working to make sure that we're working with our contractor, our third-party hauler, really well, and see how we can integrate the additional schools in the best way to shorten the route. And then lastly, we are really making sure to make system-wide change. So that's a big thing that we want to focus on. Our Montgomery County is a really big county that has a lot of potential to get way more schools involved. So making sure there's county funding in place for next school year so that schools feel comfortable and don't have to worry about funding, since that's a big thing.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Angela, you guys did a wonderful job. And what I wanted to try to convey here is the power of young people. We don't solve the climate crisis if we don't engage students. As wonderful as these students are, I promise you that there are dozens of them in every school, in every state in the country, who are interested and passionate about making a difference. Our greatest function as Rotarians is that we can just provide direction. And that's been, I think, one of the greatest joys of since I've been involved, is seeing how students respond to this, how impactful it is and empowering it is for them. As they mentioned, there is this grant. Lynn Zarat is the head of facilities in Montgomery County. They are interested in implementing lunch at landfills or a waste diversion program, even it's not called that, in every school in the county, but they're not ready. You can't just simply put a compost bin in the cafeteria and expect that only organics are going to go on that waste stream. We already contaminate recycling. That's taught us that this isn't good enough. We have to really we have to mentor students. We have to demonstrate it initially. And what will happen now, just to give an example, at Urbana Middle School, this is the 4th year. So 8th graders, 7th graders, and 6th graders have all done waste diversion programs at the feeder elementary schools. Urbana Middle will be introducing a program, and it's going to be seamless because these kids have already been doing it. They know how to do it. What we want to try to impress is that lunch out of landfills is behavior changing, but once it's ingrained, we don't have to do anymore. With all grants or with any programs like this, what Rotary can do is help lead the way. Within a few years, it's just behavior. This is what we've done. This is how we've changed. And we don't need to be involved financially or raising money in the future. The school systems will adopt it. So with that, wanted to try to open this up for questions. Please direct them to these amazing students. Anybody who has any thoughts or suggestions, we're happy to try to answer those. So if anybody wants to mute, or maybe you can put a question in the chat.
Well, while people are thinking about asking questions, I'm sure I'm not alone in being on this call, and thanking you so much, Joe, for your vision and your commitment, and for the students that are here. Very proud of you, and I'm sure your parents are very proud of you. And you know, we've heard from young people that you all are going to be the adults in the room on climate change. and on supporting the environment is our area of focus. And we very much appreciate that you're doing that. And I hope that you'll find Rotarians that both respect you as people that can make these changes and to understand that it's your planet. So thanks. One of our guests is Dave Anderson. Dave is from District 6220 and is part of an environmental committee that they have, a task force that they have going in their district. So in speaking to Dave, you're speaking to the tip of the spear for 6220. So I really appreciate your coming, Dave. Hannah put in chat that she's an Interact advisor. Hannah was driving. I don't know if she still is, but I'm just so grateful that we've done our part here today and our recording so that we can share this out. I will clip my mistake there and we'll share in sections, and so we can take that out. Gail, did you have any reflections or feedback?
Sorry, my mic's probably not going to pick me up too well. It's kind of sitting off to the side here. But I'm very excited to get this information to our environmental committee.
If I could say one thing, and I think I've heard from Rotarians in the past say, well, it's kind of difficult to find a student liaison. Kids have opportunities to join different clubs. And maybe that might be one of the reasons why there are not as many Interact clubs as potential there could be. Our club, Southern Frederick, hosts 2 high schools, Oakdale and Urbana. As we align these climate solutions to school green teams, the easiest liaison, when you need a teacher champion or a teacher contact in the school, go to the science curriculum. Go to a person who's environmentally focused or an environmental education teacher. That's your greatest resource for finding students who care about this, aligning with green teams, and the Interact clubs will explode exponentially. We had a very successful Interact club 7 years ago, and next year, Kelly McQuillan is 26. He will be the 4th youngest Rotary Club president in the history of Rotary. But it was his experience in Interact that helped him to become a Rotarian very early on. We have a lot of very young people joining our Rotary Club. But as we are positioned as a resource for solutions, people will naturally gravitate to our efforts. And it is collaborative. One of the committees in SRAG is collaborative relationships. So we need to work with other organizations, church-based groups, PTAs. As we collaborate with other groups, we can implement these changes, and the students will lead the charge. They won't follow. As you see in Advika and Angelina, they'll lead this effort, and it's really quite powerful to behold. Any other questions?
All right, well, thank you everyone for joining. Thanks, Kathy, Kathy is one of the presidents in 6250, and John, I'm not sure where you're at. I didn't get a message from Hannah, but we'll have these available. So if you know a Rotarian, you should be able to find the links to the recordings. Joe, thanks again. It can be challenging to have the vision that you have and not quit. Thank you for not quitting.
It's a joy, and working with kids fuels that joy.
I can't even imagine, frankly. I saw a very big smile on your face for obvious reasons. Thank you, everyone. Peace to you, and all the best as you make steps forward to support our beautiful environment. Have a great day.
Thank you.